Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, and
Did I get a headache?
Doctor Honorable, and of course,
Thank you, sir. Good morning. How are
General.
you?
Good morning.
Very good.
So, well, if I tell you congratulations, people will say I'm biased. So I will just say acknowledgement of your new move.
We could start off.
I say congratulations. They're going to put that all out. So nobody don't say congratulations. Nobody just say we acknowledge your recent move.
Your recent move. But you know, Mr. Obika, if we could start off the conversation about how do you think that affects your brand? Because you have a brand because you're a politician. How do you think crossing from one party affects your brand? Because historically, it has not been seen as attractive in terms of trustworthiness by the electorate. How do you combat that sense of assessment of what you would have done?
So thanks again, and thanks for trying to be good. And have a good morning to all. I would put someone asked me if I changed, but you see, it's not a change. It's actually adherence to what you believe in. So a life in service requires adherence to something that is strong enough for you to deviate from your professional path to give service to your country. And if you are in a vehicle and you are not of the view that the vehicle will allow you to provide that service to your country, and you change vehicle, there's no change in service. There's actually you adhering to your focus in terms of service. Now, you all are in the media, you all follow programming, you all follow the political parties. You all would be also privy because, for example, Senator Paul Richards would be privy to one-on-one conversations with persons, and I'm sure in times in the midst of simple conversation on a bill before the Senate, I'm sure a member may have given them an insight into some of their personal challenges in the organization and let a few slip. What persons get caught up with is the outward appearance that you are required to give. If you are in an organization, especially a political organization responsible for the affairs of a country, it is not your place to be airing your concerns in the public. You basically complain internally and you maintain discipline externally. That is the modus operandi that is expected of you. And the standard for remaining in a vehicle is if you believe that there's an opportunity for you to effect change, notwithstanding your lack of success to date. All right. But if at some point in time you recognize that you will not be successful in the time frame that you feel is necessary, you make decisions. But for persons and members of the public, it would appear sudden because it ought to appear sudden. You are not allowed.
Why do you think? And I'm presuming you're talking here about the party as a whole. Am I wrong or right?
Yes.
The party as a whole, which means the UNC, which you were a part of. Why do you think that party, given a time frame that you've now identified, would not be successful?
So I'll start with one example. 3 years ago, just to give an idea as to what happened. I joined the UNC in 2017, September, when I became a senator. And you know my background. I came directly from NJAC, okay? And NJAC has specific understandings, and there are things that you more or less become a social authority on in your circles, all right? In particular, where it comes to a particular ethnicity, it's obvious I don't need to say it because I don't want to color the conversation too much, right? So when you come into an organization, and you come into the UNC, you try your best to make persons understand that notwithstanding some persons being compliant or looking the other way when certain things are done or said, all right, I felt it was necessary for me to make things very clear that these things are not to be said, these things are not to be done. After the defeat in 2020, I took it upon myself to be very focused in helping the organization. I floated the idea of a African caucus within the organization. I'm a former head of the African Society at UE. I'm a former NJAC UTAM leader. Okay? So I felt that would have been of value to the organization. Race relations is an important aspect of our society. We live in a society with a rainbow of ethnicities. And therefore, and I'm not talking about the rainbow of ethnicities that dwell within Richard Raghubar Singh. He is actually a reflection of Trinidad and Tobago on his own, you know. But not everyone may be as fortunate as him, okay, to be able to be born with that sensibility just by living in his family. He would be moving through the different sensibilities that are required, you know. But many of us live in families that are more or less homogenous, okay, and we grow up with these sensibilities. When you're in a national organization, statements and messaging about any sector of the society can be damaging to the organization's prospects at good governance. Because perception is important in politics. It is more important than what you think is your reality. Because the person perceiving the organization will make decisions based on them. As they say in politics, we don't care how smart you are if we don't think we like you. Because if we don't think we can identify with you, we will not want to associate with you in governance in any shape or form. So the idea of the African caucus wasn't a popular idea, and it has to do with the organizational structure of the party. It's a flat organizational structure. Dr. Richards, you are familiar with that type of thing. Organizations where it's flat, it's difficult to create other structures because it quickly dwarfs the organization. So in those types of organizations, individuals become institutions. This sounds technical, but it's basically what it basically means is if you have a cause that you feel is necessary for the health of the organization, you need to take it upon yourself to be that person. So I told members, I said, I will provide that service to the party. And
why did you think the party is not capable of winning? Because that's what you're suggesting in the next election. That time would obviously have to be the next election.
Right. So I taken a long Michael holding one up. So let me get to the crease then. Right. So in 2020, after the election, there was an article in the Guardian newspaper. Obika issues race-related correction to a WhatsApp group, and was explaining to them that you can't juxtapose persons of African descent in a negative light, all right, to persons in the West, right? You know, it is about disasters in the West. So they juxtapose youths lying down in silots with youths in a party in the West, right? And the youths were lying down was saying Gary come from that kind of thing, and then they say PNM supporters versus PNM finances. That was the juxtaposition. Right? So that is not healthy. But that leaked out because somebody screenshotted and sent it out, right? But I decided afterwards I wouldn't put anything out. I'll call persons then because I don't want people to feel like if I am the person sending leaks out. So since 2020 to now, nothing came out. So persons would have felt that I'm happy and I'm okay. But I have been working every single week explaining to persons wherever there's an issue. When the elections became in view, the local government elections, this thing amped up. And on the 18th of May, after the decision by the 25th of May, it amped up, okay? And on my birthday, the 29th of May, there was a sitting of the House of Representatives for the validation, the Monday 29th of May, the validation of the local government bill. So the party had a meeting with only senators. Senator Leida, and to his credit, he didn't bring up anything that I felt was uncomfortable. We had Senator Nakid, Senator Roberts, and Senator John, as well as the political leader. And those three persons, apart from the political leader, are primarily of African descent. You have someone who is whose father is an African, and you have persons who are black, basically, right? Julian John and David Lackett. And all three of them responded in their speech in some degree to the Prime Minister's statement that he's a black person. But the way in which they chose to deal with the subject, all right, I felt was bad. So, and it was on my birthday when you were thinking about your life and so on. So I issued a statement, internally to persons in the party, including the political leader, that the messaging of the party is becoming bitter and divisive. And it is unhealthy to be targeting people. You may think you're targeting someone on the opposite side, but you are targeting an entire section of the society in a way that is unsavory. All right? And while this person's to us is human, but I am trying to show them where it is wrong. And instead of a course correction, what you got is more of it, and it's getting that fever pitch. That is one aspect of it. And that was, to me, that was unacceptable. This at the same time, I was complaining bitterly for a year, all right? That if you have persons who have, without calling any names, all right, who have stories being spoken about them, about certain matters. You have persons, you have an individual who there's talk of a sworn affidavit of the person engaged in the trafficking of a person who was a minor. So I would not call any names because of course, the legal implications. All right. And then you have this person being promoted in the organization because they hold a senior position and they are a member of the parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. Okay? And I am saying I am a son, I'm a son to a mother, I am a husband to a wife, and I'm a father to a daughter. And to me that was reprehensible. But you have to recognize at the same time, screening has opened. And this individual is one of the main persons involved in screening. And one of the questions you ask persons in screening? You ask them, can you indicate one thing that you have done or are currently doing that could cause irreparable harm to the reputation of the party and to the country? Now, I can think of nothing worse than human trafficking. You understand? If there is a sworn affidavit, in the least, we accept that you are innocent until proven guilty. However, in the realm of politics, you have to allow that person time to sort their situation out. Because if it becomes true that what this person did is true, and you had an opportunity to stop them from being part of the governing process, because the opposition is part of the governing process of this country, then you two are at fault.
How would you respond to those who say both major parties have had allegations of persons in the parties doing wrongdoing, and it's only until it gets to the point of charges being laid, or in some instances a few, police investigations being started, official police investigations, that action is taken? And that is, some people may say, true about both major political parties.
So I'll give two examples. You have one individual who was charged, who was a member of parliament of the PNM, was not selected for 2020 general elections.
But allegations were swirling before that.
You have, no, what I'm saying, I'm giving two examples. That one person was not selected. You have another individual who, the sworn affidavit, you ought to have seen it. Hopefully, you hope that you would have seen it. But persons within the party were speaking about it verbatim. Okay? So if you didn't see it, then it is a negligence in some form. But persons in the party who also on the screen committee, they saw it. I need to drink some water. I just woke up and took a call, so I didn't. I had a long night last night. I'm preparing for my MPhil PhD as your good self, Senator Richards, right? So, I mean, you just need to pause after this to take some water.
Sure, but you can have your water, no problem.
But there are persons who were speaking of it, and that person was given their seat. In fact, because of those allegations within the organization, the night before screening, he was not offered a seat. The member of parliament who is on bail, $1 million bail, okay? All right? Before that happened, because the charge only happened last year, the issue with the vehicle, it raised its head before the election, he was still given a seat. There are two other members of parliament, one with something in TSTT, all right? Some $3 million and a tendering process that is crazy, was known before the election, was given a seat.
So you are uncomfortable. You are uncomfortable with how the party was handling these significant issues.
Yes, and if you could make such egregious errors in opposition with these individuals, what can happen when you are in government? And if you have persons who have succeeded, or a person who has succeeded in defrauding the state, or is on a charge for defrauding the state, while it's in opposition, he didn't defraud the state in government, and then they charge him when he was in opposition. The transaction and so on has to do when this individual is in opposition. You understand? And then now you are given the seat. You're not saying let you take some cooling off period so you can see what's happening with those charges to see if you are in fact innocent. No, you go through with it.
I mean, so because I understand.
Let's close with this last point. And the old people ever saying, what you see in broad daylight, you don't go and shine flambeau to find in the night. You understand? When I grew up in Point 14, that is what they would tell you. So if I am seeing all these things, you are complaining and complaining and complaining. It's only so much, and these things are regular talk in the organization, mind you. Regular talk in the organization. And
we started off this conversation by you saying that you have certain values that you ascribe to as a person, which guided your decision in moving from one party to the next. And of course, you have a NJAC history, but the NJAC and the PNM have never really been, how should I diplomatically say this? They have not necessarily been bedfellows at all politically over the history of Trinidad and Tobago politics. And being a member or having your genesis in NJAC, why the PNM? Well, is it that you see the PNM as the only alternative for you to have that aligns with your values, because you said it was a value alignment issue? So is it that you're saying that the People's National Movement better aligns with your values, being of NJAC origin, as compared to one of the third parties or seeking your political welfare elsewhere, wherever that may be?
Right, so the irony in this whole thing is that Dr. Keith Rowley was a foundation member of NJAC. Of course, you have to remember, in 1970, you couldn't have a membership list because that would be a lightning rod for police, right? Because whilst the main speakers may not have been involved in activities, there were activities by other elements in the revolution, other more radical elements in that revolutionary process, all right, that were ascribed to NJAC, even though NJAC didn't commit them. So the irony is he was a foundation member of the organization in terms of a main platform speaker in 1970 before he went to study. And this is a part of historical records, so this is not new information. And even when I met him, I asked him that question, why is it that NJAC never joined? And I guess it's because they when I was being raised, they upheld the view that it was conventional politics or revolution. I do not hold that view, that it ought to be conventional politics or revolution. I have worked my entire life, well, half of my professional life in the public service. And I believe that the only way to get things done is to be involved in a senior management position in the public service. So it's either you rise to the top as a director or higher, permanent secretary, so on, or you come in at the top in a management position. Now, so that is my perspective. So therefore the question is, you have to be part of a serious vehicle that you believe will be in government so that you can implement some of the policies you want. The course I'm doing this short semester is a policy development. And I'm drawing a parallel with the work that I do, which is you do policy briefs and so on for ministers.
So you didn't think NJAC was a vehicle that could get you in a position to make a serious impact? How do you reconcile? Because you were one of our colleagues in the Senate for a while. The things you've said about the PNM while you were a senator, a UNC senator, talking about your issues with the PNM being quite pointed in many instances. I won't repeat some of them because they were quite pointed. Mm-hmm. Having major issues with the way the PNM operates or operated, and now saying, well, the PNM is a serious option for governance and you being a part of it to have an impact. How do you reconcile your positions then and your position now, singing praises to the PNM as the vehicle to
which goes back to the alignment of values question, which is what
how do you reconcile that?
All right, so let me answer that question. I hold the view that it's a human organization. And if I hold such strong convictions and I'm seeing what I feel can be improved in the organization, then I may even be the best person to put my shoulder to the wheel within the organization to effect that change. You understand? It is the same approach I took when I went in the UNC, but I didn't succeed in that regard.
And what's going to be the difference now? Because you're a newcomer in an organization that you have chastised vehemently for many years since joining active politics. You are starting, I don't know, maybe at the bottom of the rank, and intend to impact changes in some very serious issues that you've raised in the past few years.
Let's say first of all, people who cross party lines seldom start off at the bottom. They're seen as attractive for the purposes because they're crossed.
Well, I don't know that
historically. Let's just talk about historical.
I don't know that I'm starting off at the top. You know, so the bottom line is, for me, I am basically serving, all right, and I'm serving in communities that I am already known. To people who I already have a personal relationship with. It just so happened that they've always been PNM. You understand? So from that perspective, it is not as if I'm moving from Trinidad to Grenada or Trinidad to Guyana. I am basically serving in the same communities with the same people. It is a question of where I am needed. I've already started serving. You understand? Now, the things that are important to me would be coming from NJAC, would be sharing the cake in a manner that where there's equity and there's fairness. You know, in NJAC there was a saying: the people don't want the crumbs, they want the cake. You understand? So sharing the pie, the population. But the process of sharing the pie, for example, I'm taking one specific, very narrow example, right? I had a long conversation. I finished in my panyard in Marbella after midnight last night, having this conversation because the band leader was trying to understand how his members can be involved in wealth creation. So there's a project that I'm working with there with the band, which is forming a cooperative so that we can purchase land. And there's a project I started since last year, February. But you know, in people organizations, things don't move that fast. You have to get people along the way. We're doing the training program at the bylaws level. And this is something I'm doing for free, as we say in Trinidad, from the goodness of my heart, right? It's a lifelong project for me. So that the members of the band can now pool our resources, purchase land, and then divide up into agricultural and residential and commercial plots. Even at February, even whilst I was a UNC senator, all right, I worked in the cooperatives division, and they reached out to me saying that there's a group of young people, 200 of them, in the Youth Agriculture Homestead Program of the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. And I saw these young people. To me, I felt a generational gap because I was 39 in February, and these people, as I'm almost 40, and these young people are just over 20, and they're doing the agriculture program in Ekiaf. And I said, this is a beautiful program. They took the Chatham Youth Facility down in Southwest Trinidad after Point Fortin, and it's a Chatham Youth Facility, Chatham Dairy Farm. Is a dairy farm that's been long out of commission. And the government has been trying many years to bring it up when I was a cooperative officer. And they're getting 2-acre plots, they're getting a house, and they're getting start funding to do the agricultural project. And what they're doing is pooling themselves into a cooperative, and they came to me to help form them so that they can have a management team so that maybe you can organize tractors and other things when they get ready. And I said, this is a wonderful program by the government, and you all should count yourselves lucky. And this is whilst I was chief economist for the UNC with the opposition. All right. So I said, okay, this is beautiful. Now, I just hope that nobody taped me at that time, because they will see, look, I'm being indisciplined, because the challenge in Trinidad and Tobago is they expect a certain level of critique from the opposition, and that was a program I couldn't really critique. Now, the thing with that program is it's wonderful. It helps create wealth. So I had a conversation with the MP for Point Fortin yesterday, and one of the things we discussed is creating jobs in Point Fortin. And there is a tech facility. I said, well, a simple thing we can do is we can inquire from the Minister of Trade if there are any vacant leases, and if they can do what they did in Moruga, build a factory shell and have businesses use that to make batch processing, but not agro-processing as in Moruga.
I appreciate the discourse on that, but we have a very short time. Did you approach the PNM, or did the PNM approach you?
I approached the PNM.
So you made your mind to leave the UNC, and you approached the PNM. What was their response to your overtures?
They were very welcoming, because if you are in the party now, in the private conversations, not everybody will do like the persons who have left before and express their concerns. Dr. Fuad Khan, or not who have left, who are not part of the process right now. You understand? I don't want to call their names, because that's not where it is. I know Dr. Fuad Khan is a man who has a public image, so I can call his name. Right? But many of them who have left, you in the media, you know. But what you are not privy to are the persons who are inside, all right, who are required to maintain discipline, and who are saying, and this is what this one is instructive. Persons are saying that they don't even want the party to get into government with some of the characters that are holding office in the lower house.
You're suggesting a fragmented party. Is that true?
I wouldn't say a fragmented party. I would say a party that is basically waiting to write its course. But we are not sure when that course will be corrected to be righted in the first place.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
The party at this time is not comprised in a manner, the persons at the leadership, where you can have serious discussion on issues of national importance. All right? Your colleague in the Senate, for the opposition, former national footballer, said not to call his name. So I shall not call his name. I mentioned his profession. Then you have other colleagues that in the lower house as well, that when you consider what is their focus at this time, persons are saying they simply don't want to even see them in government. And if you're part of a vehicle and you want to effect change, and you're not convinced, and the persons on the train are not convinced that they even want that team to be in government.
But you're saying that, but I'm sure I can get scores of people who are members of the United National Congress who want to see the party in government. So that's a toss-up debate. You're saying there are persons you're not persons who don't want them in government, but I'm sure there are many persons, possibly the majority, because people aligned to a party to be governing the country.
But they are not in the engine room. They are not in the high-level strategic decision.
You are suggesting
they are not
that most of the persons in the engine room don't want the party to get into power. How does that make sense?
I'm saying the persons who I look to in that organization as persons who are serious don't look at the team and say, in fact, when they look at the team, they say they really don't want this bunch of people to get in government. I'm serious, that is the reality, but the problem is they will not be able to say that. So the only way you can get an idea from that is by speaking yourself to other persons who are not part of the process, but who you believe are upheld by the society as serious persons in terms of governance, former ministers who are not part of this team right now. But you see, what they will say is, I sour grapes, but the persons on the inside will agree. The persons who are serious will agree with them, but they are not. Of course, the discipline is this. If you're in an organization, you disagree, you try to fix it. But when you reach a critical point where you know that you can't do no more, you are required to leave because you will stay in and you will.
Since your resignation from the party, there are several questions that have swirled. The normal questions will swirl when somebody with your stature and position leaves. That you clarified first earlier on that you approached the PNM and they were open arms and accepted you. Is there any promise of a position? A couple of questions. Are there any inducements? That sort of stuff. Just to clarify for the public record.
No promise of any position. No inducements. I was a free agent. I wasn't contracted in the transfer window of the Premier League.
What is your political end game, though, in terms of aligning yourself with the People's National Movement? Is it that your end goal is to be a minister because those are the positions that influence the most? Is that your end goal? Or is your end goal only local government? What is your end goal? You have to have an end goal.
So my end goal is definitely not local government. Okay? My focus is on policy development. So if you understand, I have not been in the organization a week, but I'm having a conversation with the minister responsible for e-tech parks about small wins that can create jobs in Labray, in Point Fortin. Same modeling what they have done in Moruga. Right? Because I met a small processor that is based in Port of Spain who process some items in Moruga, creating some employment there, and then they're distributing the items throughout the country. And that model could be used, but using a different industry, maybe the fashion industry. But of course,
you're giving me examples, but you're giving me examples.
You're asking what is my end game. So I'm saying my end game.
What is your end goal in terms of
so my end goal is
where you're placing yourself in the politics.
When you are in an organization, right? You don't need to be okay. For example, you're in a newsroom. You don't need to be in front of the camera to effect how the news is delivered. You could be a producer, you could be a director, you could even be just someone who is there, who is capable, and who is rendering service above their station in the organization.
Yeah, but I may have a goal that I want to be managing director.
No,
that could be my eventual goal in terms of my ambition, in terms of my career. So what's
the difference with politics and a profession. All right. I have a goal for my profession. You understand? As an economist, that's why I'm doing my PhD right now. But as a person in public service, my goal is to effect the things that I want to see. So I'm telling you, all right, the ink has not dried on me signing the registration form yet, and I'm already speaking to persons. Yesterday, the conversation I had with a bandit in Marabella is a steel pan development project that we want to look at sending through Trinbago so that other bands in the country can benefit by creating jobs in situ, on site.
What Richard is asking is that you're a trained economist. You're a trained economist en route to completing your PhD. I have no doubt that you will do that, because I've always found you a very intelligent person, very knowledgeable person in the field of economics. Your tone needed to change a little bit sometime, but that's just a personal preference, you know. But
I can't change my enthusiasm. That's the challenge. But as I get older, I understand how to take things down a notch. Okay.
Yeah.
Because people need to be able to hear you.
Based on your skill set and experience, where do you see yourself? I'm not talking nebulously here, because that's what Richard's trying to get at you. Where do you see yourself in the matrix of the PNM, which is a very, very disciplined party? From what I have seen, the PNM don't take people like people going out and talking out of turn and discussing issues they have externally when they should be doing internally. The PNM is a very disciplined party like that. Where do you see yourself in 3 years in the People's National Movement? In what specific position, if any at all?
When I was in NJAC, I didn't chase position. Whilst I was in the UNC, I didn't chase position. In the PNM, I will not chase position. I will focus on serving. The importance for me is being able to serve. I do not care for position. It has never formed part of my focus. You understand? Because
some of the verbal onslaughts have already started. Are you surprised, and do you expect more?
Well, I want to say this to persons, and let me just say this because I didn't see it at the beginning of the interview. To all persons who may have followed me and may have felt, because politics is something that persons invest heavily in and they're very emotional about. So I want to apologize to persons who are members of the People's National Movement, supporters of the party, who may have been hard done by some of the things I may have said. Camille Robinson Regis, Stuart Young, I believe I am someone who believes that being able to recognize where you may have erred or you may have impacted on someone negatively, to apologize as a first step. I always believe in an unconditional apology. All right. So I unconditionally apologize, and I am prepared to demonstrate that I have seen the error of my approach. Now, the reality is this: if you are in an organization and someone is chasing a position, it is not a healthy thing to do. What they should be chasing is the development of the organization. You are in a media organization. If somebody comes in there chasing a position, they will, and working agendas to get that position, it doesn't help with the health and the environment in the organization, and it doesn't help the organization to grow. All you should be doing is sharpening your skills, as you see in the culture industry, working on your craft and bringing it to bear to the benefit of the organization. That is all that I intend to do. Nothing more, nothing less.
And what's your message to your colleagues you've left in the UNC and the UNC membership who may have supported you during your tenure with the United National Congress?
Our electoral system and our governance system requires strong political vehicles. Iron sharpens iron. Okay? And therefore, so there are negatives to adversarial politics, but there are positives. One positive is iron sharpens iron. And therefore, if they look at the criticisms that I have leveled, which I believe are evidence-based, I don't play in insults. I would hope not to. All right? Evidence-based criticisms. They will do some introspection. All right? However, yesterday on the platform, I heard someone refer to me, draw a reference to me, a parallel to me as pinning the ballet tie on my jacket. Remind them of pinning the tail on a donkey. You understand? And that is not the direction for politics. And that is the same thing that I told them. You cannot be in this century or the last century or any other century describe a human being as you would describe and depict an animal. You know? And I don't feel any way about it because I know this will happen because this is the thing I was telling them you must not do. You ought not do. So, but it means that they haven't listened because last week, Monday, understand, I was mentioned by the political leader as a brilliant economist, understand, and former senator. But this Monday, I am drawn reference to as a donkey. You understand? That is the only reference that speaker could have brought up. And when that happened, the crowd cheered. The crowd cheered. I will no feelings because I knew that this is the same thing that I was speaking to them about. It is not healthy in the politics of a country. All right. So a simple thing. I think that I want to say this, and I think I need to say this. One of the persons in the party is of Caucasian descent, right? And he explained to me something that I didn't understand. He said, when persons in the party say 1%, it hurts him. Because in his community, that feels, it's like a slur. And it feels like an attack on them, you know? And I say, well, why don't you say these things? Because your Senate colleagues say it a lot. You know that, Senator Richards, you know? So in the political process, you must consider all aspects of our society. Every demographic must be considered. Even if we feel strongly against or for, you have to consider them and balance their fears. Because it may not be a concern, you may feel it's just a simple would be 1%, but it has now become something that is causing fear, you know?
So, well, we are out of time. Taharqa Obika, thank you for being with us. We appreciate your time. And wish you nothing but the best in the future.
Yes, thank you. All the best to you.
Same to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the Power Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital, Mr. Taharqa Obika.